Well, hi, friends. It pains me that we cannot be together in person on Sunday morning yet, and I miss seeing all of your faces in person and worshiping with you. And while we settle into this time of waiting, I wanted to provide a resource for you to use in your small groups or to use with your families or even just to use for your own personal time with God that walks through the epistle of Philippians. And you may be asking, why this particular book of the Bible? Well, I chose this letter to the Philippians for a couple of reasons. First of all, the atmosphere around the letter is full of hardship. Now, maybe that seems a little bit on the nose for our time right now, but I think we may find some wonderful connection when we get a little closer. You see, Paul writes the letter from prison in isolation from others. And we meet a contemplative Paul in a time of uncertainty about his future and whether God will grant him the opportunity to continue his work. And while the atmosphere around Paul is difficult and taxing, if we read closely, Paul's response is disarming. His letter is bright and reflective and vulnerable. You get the impression that Paul is free despite being in chains. He seems mature and purposed. You may even wonder, how did he get this way? And Paul is all too eager to talk about how the present circumstances, as difficult and painful as they may be, how they move him into the story of Jesus. For him, Jesus' suffering and hardship, and his hardship and suffering are completely connected. And it is clear that the lived in union with Christ, it is transforming him. It is freeing him up and making him whole. Well, Philippians is also a book for us now because it captures well the longings that we are experiencing. Paul longs to see his friends, and he's not able to. He longs to see these people that he has a deep affection towards, and we can even feel the anguish of that distance, of the separation. We can even hear the painful uncertainty in his voice because he doesn't know when he's going to be able to see them again. And Paul has this beautiful mission partnership with the church at Philippi. And part of this partnership includes practical support to help provide for Paul while he is in prison. And this partnership is embodied for Paul in his friendship with Epaphroditus. You see, the church in Philippi, they sent Epaphroditus to support him. And Paul's not shy about his feelings for his friend. His warm feelings, they capture well the intentional bonds established, even across distance and isolation. And the last thing about Philippians that is for us is that it is a book that grabs a hold of joy. It's an overwhelmingly present in this book. And what is important for us is that it doesn't do so in some cheap way, in some manufactured veneer of happiness or self-talk. No, Paul's joy is full-bodied and it is sturdy. It's unmoved by the circumstances that he finds himself in. His joy is really refined. It's been places. It has seen some things. You see, Paul's joy knows the constant ache of loneliness that can tangle us up in a web of depression and detachment. Paul's joy knows the anxious heart that beats with fear, the concerns of not having enough or that longing for security. And Paul's joy knows what it's like to pass through illness. His own illness and that of his friend Epaphroditus, an essential worker, to care for Paul while he's in prison. And Paul's joy knows what it's like to pass through death. It's the only road that it takes, through the humbled and humiliating and separating death of Jesus. And yet, that beautiful surprise, that joy at the empty tomb. Paul's joy takes the long way around, through loneliness, through anxiety, through illness and death, and it is made strong and sturdy in the resurrection. He knows that he shares all of this with Christ, and he knows that he shares all of this with his friends in Philippi, and he shares this joy with us too. Well, so over the next several weeks, I will send out a weekly resource, and like I said, for you to use in your small groups, or for you to use with your families, or even to use in your own personal time with God. It will include a reflective writing to help you walk through the passage, as well as some questions to bring you into God's Word. And my hope is that you wouldn't just approach this just as a study, but a guide towards meaningful connection with Christ. And my great hope, if I can echo Paul's words in the letter, it is my prayer that your love may abound more and more. I miss you all. May the grace of Christ be with you. I hope to see you soon.